What up, everyone? This is the Twice Over Film Club, where we watch a movie every week, and I'm your host, Faraz. Today we're going to be talking about Michael Clayton. If you would like to know what we're watching for next week, follow us at the Twice Over on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Every Tuesday we announce what's on the watch list for that week. Also, check out our website, thetwiceover.com. All the scoring that we do, we aggregate the numbers and produce a tally for each movie. That tally is dynamic and it depends on how you order the different elements of the film. Go check that out. Alright, here's myself with Fahad and Yusuf for Michael Clayton. This is a 2007 film starring George Clooney. He is a fixer at a law firm where he has to manage and resolve internal problems that arise, but he has to do it in somewhat of a discreet manner. I am joined today with Fahad and Yusuf. This was a movie Fahad selected for Yusuf to watch, and I'm just tagging along. What's up, guys?
Hi, Faraz.
Nice.
What up?
Hey, guys.
So, Fahad, this is the second legal-based movie you've chosen for me. So,
Wait, what was the
what's
first
up
one?
with that?
What was the Social Network?
The Social Network.
Wait,
Social Network
does
counts.
it?
There was two lawsuits in that movie. There wasn't even one. There was two going on simultaneously.
Ooh, okay.
The whole
your
movie
point.
is revolved around this lawsuit.
I think I want your critical take on these law movies. Are they being portrayed accurately? Are they getting the things right? So I guess I'm subconsciously aiming for accuracy in these reviews.
Well, this movie I wouldn't say is a movie about the law. It's more about a dude who happens to work at a law firm.
It also touches on some legal proceedings, right?
Moral obligations that you attorneys have, Yusuf.
There's
None.
A variety. We have plenty of moral obligations. The question is whether we live up to those obligations or not. That's what this movie is actually about, right? I mean, let's talk about it. It's a movie about moral ambiguity and all the stress and strain that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. And that moral, the strains of making a good moral decision, it's not laid evenly across the board, right? So you have lawyers in this movie that aren't taking that responsibility to heart. They're more concerned about, getting their hours billed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole concept of having a fixer at a law firm is kind of like, here's the guy that's gonna, handle all the things that the average attorney doesn't want to handle or doesn't know how to handle or is uncomfortable, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of outsource that to one person and let him bear the brunt of the dilemma there, right?
Right. And he's this guy, the fixer, is operating in somewhat of a gray zone, right? So he could be making good moral choices or bad ones. But it's interesting because the movie doesn't give Michael's character many moral choices to make, right? So I didn't think that there was much meat there.
Well, we'll get into that because I actually have a lot to say about that part right there. Let's get into our scores for the review. Let's start with the writing category. I gave it a 65.
I gave it a 90.
Whoa.
I'm at an 80.
Oh, you guys
I'm right in
it,
between
huh?
you guys. Yeah, I think I liked it fairly well. I tell us what you didn't like. I think I'm going to agree with a lot of your points, but let's hear it.
What I didn't like about it, it felt super structured. It didn't flow well, didn't feel natural. And the writing didn't match the dramatic nature of what we'll talk about later is the aesthetics of the movie.
All right, fair enough.
That's the main thing. So I'd put it a little under average.
Gotcha. Here's why I like the writing style. I liked how it didn't dumb down the conversation. It almost felt like you were being dropped mid-conversation. It forced you to know the context of what the people are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciated that. And then it was just smartly written,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but that's what I think is made it feel unnatural to me.
Unnatural. I like the dryness of it.
Okay.
I'll say that. I didn't, you're talking about, the lines weren't spoken with enough dramaticism? Is that what you're getting at?
No. So I didn't like that it was, I'll just talk about I didn't like the aesthetics that much either of the movie. So the over-dramatized nature of the aesthetics with this writing was just a bad combination.
Okay.
I think I agree with some of the points that both of you are making. There's something very, I'm going to keep saying this throughout this podcast probably, there's something very tropey about the way that George Clooney plays this high-billing attorney who handles all the worst possible, pieces of the firm's work. It's there's a million movies like that, man. And so to some degree, him walking in the room being like, let me tell you what's what. You effed up and there's no way around it. And, I'm not the man you think I am.
Yeah, you're talking about the scene where he gets to see the guy who got in a car accident, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, without getting into the scene itself, I don't want to talk too much about it yet. But yeah, like there's, and that's not the only one, but that's definitely one that sticks out at the moment.
Uh-huh.
And there's something about, maybe it's the age of this movie also, like that was a role that George Clooney kind of played to perfection, and he played it in a lot of movies. And so maybe that's part of what's playing into me. But I did think there was something a little bit generic about some of this.
Yeah, I get your point. In like the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of these Grisham movies being made. They all focused on either law, crime, and like other stuff, right? And there were all these thrillers, and they all shared the same themes and plots, I guess. And so maybe it's been overdone. And I agree with you there. It's been overdone. But there were things that unique to this movie, which I appreciate.
Right. And I do think actually they do an extraordinarily good job of actually demonstrating that moral gray area and the toll it can take and how confusing it can get. I thought they did a really good job of that, actually. So whatever basic, very overdone concept they were using, they actually played it out fairly well. So that's why I landed on 80. I didn't hack it too hard for that, but I didn't go as high as you simply because it is kind of not really a novel concept that they were going after.
Gotcha.
Fair enough. All right, so let's go over to the narrative. I gave this a 75.
I gave this an 80 primarily for the reasons that Yusuf raised, like it's been overdone.
So you gave it an 80 because it's overdone?
Yeah.
Or you would have gone
Otherwise
higher?
Or you would have given it higher?
Exactly.
Okay, because I gave it a 50 for all
wow.
the reasons that I said.
Okay.
So I'm the farthest away from you guys, so I'll kind of dive into that a little
Sure.
bit. Not only the things that I'm not just gonna give it a 50 because it picked something that is a little bit common. That's not the only. I'm not gonna go that low for that. I think there was some issues with the way the movie was laid out. So most of this movie takes place in a flashback sequence where we're seeing what occurred to lead up to the events that they actually open the movie with, right? So
Right.
that's not a new thing, right? There's plenty of movies that do that. But did you guys notice that it's like 15 to 20 minutes before we actually get into the flashback part? So we're in the moment for about 20 minutes of the movie to open, and then suddenly they toss you back all the way, 4 days ago or whatever.
I didn't recall that it was that long. I don't think I remember.
It bothered me.
I mean, I have a general take on that too. I just thought it was an unnecessary way to start the movie. I think it would have been just as dramatic or satisfying if they left it in a linear, storytelling.
So I kind of liked it, right? So it separates the last arc of Michael's plot arc, character arc, I guess. I think that 15 minutes, it serves to separate it because you don't know when you're beginning to watch the movie what his character arc is going to be, but you can see it from his perspective there in the first 15 minutes, and then you get a different perspective when we come back to those same moments, right?
I totally get that, and I think there's plenty of movies that do this thing, and it helps kind of establish a higher pace at the beginning of the movie and then kind of take you through the slower sequence of where you're going to end up. That's all good to me, but that was an extended sequence, and some of that was like introspective. I'm not going to say it's fluff. It was important, I think, but it was not core to the actual events of the movie. It was more kind of taking a look at the characters on a deeper level. And so that was kind of more, character development, and it's kind of meshed in with the climax of the movie. So they're showing us all this at once, and it wasn't really making a lot of sense. But in any case, I feel like when you go that long, I settled into the movie. Like I had kind of established myself in that pace, and then suddenly they toss you back after that long. I don't know.
You didn't appreciate it.
You don't appreciate it.
Being yanked around like that, right?
Yeah, I was just like, oh, what the hell? Like, so it was whatever. It's not a huge deal, but I think they could have, as Faraz said, laid out this movie better, or they could have just done without that entire, flashback. You could have just watched it linearly and probably gotten as much out of it, or, at least maybe just minimized it in terms of how much they showed you at the start.
Yeah.
I agree with Yusuf almost on every point. The only reason I did give it a much higher score than Yusuf, though, is I at the end of the day, I thought it was pretty entertaining. So a good, entertaining movie that keeps the viewer engaged. So I wanted to not go too harsh on that.
Faraz, have you seen a lot of these types of movies?
I can't say that I have. It's really not up my alley.
So it's more novel for you. I think for both me and Yusuf, we've seen a lot of these movies before, but Yusuf judged it harshly. I thought it brought something new to the table. Like it didn't focus too much on the plot. It was more of a character study of Michael and some other characters. And so I thought that was done well.
I don't know. I mean, that almost hurt it to me because they
Yeah.
peeled so much back in terms of this lawsuit that is kind of feature of the movie and it kind of carries the plot. I mean, they don't give you much detail about like what's like really going on in this lawsuit. They give you little tidbits and just kind of move the plot with it. But I don't know. I felt like they could have just done with more just to make you feel like you actually know what's going on. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of people throwing the book at each other and whatever. Like it's just it's a bunch of legalese that doesn't really make sense, which is fine. But I don't know. Maybe because I expect to understand more of it, I was more bothered by it. That might be what's going on. But
could it be that because Michael's a fixer, he's not generally on this what's it called? This isn't his client. He doesn't know much about it, so we're taking on his outside perspective on this case.
I think that's definitely true.
Okay.
I just don't know if as a viewer you appreciate that because Michael still seems to know more than we do by far, and it's just incongruous, I guess. But anyway, let's talk about acting.
Sure. I gave it a 90 for acting. I thought Clooney was great and likable as he usually is, but I don't think his character should have been as likable because he is supposed to operate in this gray area. I thought his character should have been played a little bit rougher. To me, the reason why I gave it a 90 for acting is the acting of Tom Wilkinson, who plays Arthur, and then Tilda Swinton, who plays Karen. I thought their performances were worthy of like Best Supporting Actor awards.
I'm at an 80. I think I generally agree. But Faraz, what'd you have?
I'm with you. I gave it an 80 as well. For those reasons that you mentioned, basically, Fahad. I mean, those three characters playing Karen, Arthur, and Michael, pretty solid job by those actors. But I mean, it wasn't. I don't know about like award-winning level acting. I just thought it was good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can get into it a little bit. I thought Tilda's character, it made you feel slimy because of the way she was like almost rehearsing her lines in front of the mirror. Those were some of the most memorable scenes to me in the movie. And it was a cringe-inducing, right?
Yeah.
And then Wilkinson, his lows and highs, right? He's bipolar. He plays a bipolar character, and he's going off the walls in some scenes, and it was explosive and it was great.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I guess I just didn't appreciate it as much as you.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Tilda Swinton's a good she's a good like villainess, right?
Oh yeah.
She does a lot of movies.
Have you seen Okja?
That's the last movie I've seen with her actually. I think I saw Snowpiercer after that, but they're both Bong Joon-ho films. And she just does a good job playing kind of that evil genius, and she does it here again. So I mean, I definitely agree with you there. She also plays the White Witch in the Narnia movies. So I mean, this is kind of her bread and butter.
She's been typecast. I'd like to see her in a leading role.
That would be fun. I don't know. I think I've established in my brain what I expect out of her, and I probably wouldn't like her character no matter what. But that's too bad. That's what happens when you get typecast.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Did those scenes stand out to you? The ones in which Karen's like rehearsing her lines for the corporate interview? Yeah.
And something about her accent also stood out to me. Like I don't know what accent that was, but it was like super enunciated words that were just the way she talked was weird.
Yeah, to me, like her rehearsals, she was trying to achieve like this almost airy, uncaring voice tone,
like robotic.
I don't know, not robotic. Like she was trying to make herself less robotic, right?
I don't know what she was trying to do, man, but she was trying to, I think, be like super diplomatic, not offend anyone, but get the point across and show the best face for you North. It was, I agree with you. Like, it was pretty cringy, and it kind of gave you like a bad feeling about who this character was when she was rehearsing those lines.
She was being corporate.
Yeah, but like to an extreme level.
To an extreme level, definitely. But it just made me think about, I mean, it's 2020, right? Every corporation right now is out there trying to show that they care about the causes and all of that, right? And a lot of the statements come off as hollow.
Yeah.
And they seem a little rehearsed, right? And she embodied that. She embodied that perfectly, I thought.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, so next category, we got aesthetics. I gave this a 55.
I'm at a 70. I frankly, I couldn't tell you one way or the other. There weren't a whole lot of things that stood out to me, and there weren't a whole lot of things that distracted me from the movie either. So, I mean, I landed right in the middle there.
I gave it a 75. So for me, the cinematography worked well. The shots mostly focused on the faces, and so it was like an efficient use of time. It was more of a character study, right? As far as the colors, they kept a palette of like black, whites, and grays, which worked well with the themes.
And pretty cool.
Yeah, like this cool detached corporate vibe,
Yeah.
right, going on.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't care for was the music. I thought it was intrusive and used with a heavy hand.
Exactly.
And I think Faraz, you'd agree, right?
That's the main driver of pushing my score that low. It felt like it was a Bourne movie or something with like no fighting or real action, just super hardcore
To justify it, yeah.
action type music.
Hey, we fight with our words, okay?
But
there was plenty
this
of
is where it
fighting.
goes back to the writing, where like the music with the writing just didn't flow well to me. It just felt so weird and unnatural.
You know this guy did the Bourne movies, right?
That makes total sense. Like that
He did at least one of the Bourne movies.
It felt like that without the actual backing of the action that comes with a Bourne movie.
Yeah, I thought it could have been more subtle. The music.
Yeah, that's the main reason I pushed it down from like a 7. Like otherwise, I would be where Yusuf was, around 70, but then the music pushed it down for me.
When I was like examining like how the scenes were set up, like the photography of it, all the scenes, faces. You know, you have these head to mid body shots or close in to the faces, and it's just like no time's wasted on scene setting or anything like that.
Yeah, there's no wide shots. There's no like they're not setting the place.
They're trying to put you in the heads of the characters a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. Or in the conversation, in the middle of the conversation, I guess.
Yeah. All right, so go with the themes now. It's another 55.
Ooh, wow. All right. I gave it an 85.
75 for me.
Okay.
Faraz, you start.
Yes.
Why do you hate this movie?
So they're all there, right? Themes are the truth, like, and what the truth means, and morality behind it, I guess, depending on what your career is or how you want to advance within your career and how it ties together. The compromises one might make. And then there's a subtle, I guess, they kind of talk about like the relationships and family and how that works with Michael Clayton. I just didn't think any of it was substantive enough to give it a higher score. And you're definitely not going to leave this movie thinking about any of that stuff.
Okay.
I think that part is probably true. I think there's some themes here that are worthy of commendation, but you're right. Like your average viewer is probably not going to walk out of this thing and say, "Hey, I thought this movie was really deep on a couple levels." That's probably not going to happen. So I landed at a 75. So I think there's stuff that has value there, but it didn't stand out in particular to me. Like you said, there's compromise. There's kind of this overall concept of bearing like the moral burden of others.
Yeah.
And then there's also a lot of the last thing that they kind of focus on a lot, which I thought was really good, was kind of just the perspective of Michael Clayton. We'll discuss this more fully later, but he has a particular perspective about his position and his value, and everyone else has a completely different perspective of his position and his value. And like they can't see eye to eye on that, and that comes up a few times, and I thought that was like really telling about not only Michael Clayton but generally everyone who's surrounding him, and in this conflict that's going on. There's a lot of misplacement. I don't want to say misplacement of value, but like it's like a lack of. What's the opposite of empathy? What's the opposite of a lack of empathy? It's almost like Michael Clayton doesn't want people to give him importance, but they do, or he doesn't think he has importance, but everyone else thinks he does. Whatever. We'll talk about this more after the jump, but. What's that?
He's a normal introvert.
Yeah, I guess so. He's just a normal introvert with slight depression or something like that, I guess. I don't know, yeah. I mean, he doesn't see the value that others see in him, and I thought that was interesting, especially from like the career standpoint. And
I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? He plays like this somewhat depressed character, so he would tend to devalue his own skills and worth.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, but everyone else kind of holds him at some level of esteem.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. It comes out.
Do you think it's for his past performance in cases, and we don't get the true sense of what that was in this?
No, I don't think so at all. Actually.
Yeah. I thought that was going on. Like we're not getting the true sense of what he could be doing for the firm. And his best days are kind of behind him.
I think they kind of made clear as the movie went on that this is what he's always been good at, and so like this is his value. It's not like they're it's not something that they are holding him with high regard for, like, from days past. It's almost that, this is your role and you're good at it and keep doing it and you do it better than anyone else. And to him, it was like, I'm everyone's janitor. He uses the word janitor a couple times. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, we'll talk about it more.
All right.
Okay.
Let me get into my score, because I guess
You
I
liked
was
it.
the outlier with 85, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys picked up on some of the existentialist themes kind of dredged up. They were mostly internal. Like, Wilkinson's character goes through it first, right? He questions all the years he's spent working for this client U North, and then he has that revelation and he questions how much of his life he's wasted, right? And then Arthur does the same thing later on in this movie. So I found that unique.
You mean Michael does that later on?
Michael does that, yeah. I liked what Yusuf pointed out, the gender, the whole comparison to genders. Arthur brings it up first in the movie where he's lying in bed and he's either been sedated or something. Michael has brought him back to the hotel room, and yeah, he makes that comparison, and then Michael says it to someone else, I guess, right? That gender comparison.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then a bagman, a janitor, a fixer, whatever.
Yeah.
They refer to that role that way.
Right. I think I mentioned this before, but I think what this movie really wanted to do, and if it nailed it, it would have been a much better movie. It was to set up Michael as operating in this gray zone, right, between right and wrong, and we don't get much in terms of what he actually does that could be regarded as, I guess, a bad choice versus a good choice, right? The major decisions he makes is what to do with Arthur. I think there could have been more done with that. Even though there was this redemptive arc to Michael's character, right, where he makes a good decision towards the end, do you think he should have been the focus of the movie? Because there were more interesting characters to kind of examine, like Karen and Arthur. And the movie's named after him, so I don't know. I think there's a little bit of a asymmetry there.
I actually noted this down. I thought they could have done more with Karen. It would have been... She was an interesting character. Not necessarily that I needed to see her, I don't know, like have a moment of clarity or anything. Like, she could have just been as evil as she was, but just a little more from her. And then second, I didn't kind of like how quickly and neatly it like tied up at the very end.
Yeah.
I was almost
that
hoping that Michael was just, that messenger, the bagman, whatever, where he'll just take the money and be on whatever side he needs to be on and be quiet. And I would have found that to be even better than what it actually ended up being, which is that he was setting her up and recording her.
About that setup, right? He doesn't extract a direct confession out of her. It's only implied that she's assuming guilt to everything because she offers the bribe, which to me, it was kind of confusing. Like, the cops rush in and they arrest her.
Well, that's
over
another
what?
thing, how neatly it was tied up, because it's also his family stuff. Like, both his brothers, the one brother who was an alcoholic and kind of caused him to lose his bar, he kind of like makes up with him, I guess, because he...
Oh, no, he didn't. He didn't.
He asked him to help him. That kind of... And
he wasn't on speaking terms, so he was like, just drive.
I know, but the guy also thanked him. I don't know.
He gave him a ride. That fixed everything. It made up for all the money that was lost and everything. What do you mean?
No, it didn't.
And then his brother, the cop, was the one who was there with the setup. Like, it was just, come on, man.
Yeah, I would have wanted that last...
too much for me.
That last conversation with Karen to have happened over the course of like 10 minutes, where he gets like proper revenge, right? Where we can follow along. What's his plan? How's he gonna get like some closure to this? Instead, we're like given just like one scene where, surprise, he got a confession. She's being arrested.
Which would have been possible if they didn't start the movie with the climax scene and save some time there and added it towards the end.
I think it would have been a pretty exciting end of the movie if they had done that. But I mean, we had seen most of that material already, and actually, they didn't make us sit through the entire opening sequence again, right? They actually they
sped it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think...
And they added
they
some to
didn't
it.
make us go back into the hit and run situation, right? They just kind of imply that it happened, and we kind of, you can piece together that obviously we're not seeing that part again. I feel like that happened a couple times, but that's what I mean, like, where it's like they showed us so much at the beginning where they didn't really need to. And so, yeah, you lose kind of some of that effect at the end as well, then, I feel like.
Yusuf, expand on what Fahad is asking. Was that a real confession? Will that stand up in court?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Like, she didn't really say anything. What did she say? She agreed to buy him off, right? Like that.
Yeah, like a money, like an amount. She agrees to.
She
an
never
amount.
said I did anything or it was us. She just said
She was just like mumbling along.
I agree. She was like, I agree to pay you the, how many ever million he asked for, to keep your mouth shut. And then he was like, I got a wire, blah, and like that was it, right?
Yeah.
No, dude, you can. I mean, that's yeah. Obviously, she did it, and we all know it, right? But like, that's not a real confession. If he's an attorney, he knows better than that. So for a legal movie, they
screwed the
made
pooch.
a pretty big gaffe there. They did screw the pooch. I mean, I don't think they meant to be entirely accurate there, and that's okay. That's fine with me. Like I can accept that, especially for a legal movie that wasn't really trying to get in the weeds here. Like what do we get about the lawsuit throughout this entire movie, right? We just get that there's like this scary memo out there where they pretty much admit that they killed a bunch of people, and they don't really like. It's just like it's a game of hide and seek with that memo, right? Arthur has it, but he doesn't have it because they got his briefcase and then this and then, but it turns out he actually made copies of it already and like all of that stuff, right? So like we're pretty much just following like who's gonna see that memo, who's gonna know about the memo, and that's all we get in terms of like the legal drama here. I just don't think they were trying to go like.
I liked your summary of the legal drama. You summed it up perfectly. Like it's just about
that was it, right?
The memo being in the wrong hands, right? In the right hands, it'd be powerful. In the wrong hands, it's like nothing.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I think I was expecting more detail there. Like I was trying to see like, okay, like, what is he going to discover as the fixer? Is he going to pull some maneuver where he comes up with something really valuable, or he cracks this thing one way or the other? Is that going to happen? But that wasn't really happening at all. Actually, Arthur had cracked this thing long ago. I shouldn't say cracked, because he's working for the corporation,
and he just stumbled upon the memo.
He just
right?
has a change of heart. And he has a change of heart, right? So, like, that's really what's going on. There's nothing more to it than that. And like I said, I'm okay with that. I think this movie was more supposed to be introspective on the characters, but it was a little bit misleading to me at first. To not realize that that's actually where this movie was going to focus.
So I guess the title makes sense because it shifts your focus to the character.
Yeah, 100%. I think I didn't go into this movie knowing it was like a legal drama. It's just that it opened so hard on that I kind of assumed that that's where it would be going. But I actually just, frankly, you recommended this movie. I knew the name, but I didn't know anything about the story, and I just turned it on.
Gotcha.
So it was a very fresh watch for me.
You know what? I'll recommend another legal thriller for you.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Oh, I don't.
You're saying you don't have one picked yet?
Yeah, exactly. But the next one.
All right. Just don't go Grisham again. Like, let's just get some variety here. Okay. I'm actually not a huge fan of legal dramas at all. I hate most of them. There are some that I appreciate, though.
You hate most of them because of inaccuracy?
Yeah, like I think they tend to assume the audience is fairly unaware of a lot of the mechanics and stuff. And I'm okay with it where they don't choose that as kind of the meat of the story. But if they do, then you kind of have to stick to the bones of it, and you have to get everything right, I feel like. Yeah. So that's kind of a gripe that I have generally, but that doesn't mean there aren't good legal dramas out there. Mm-hmm. It's just that
My Cousin Vinny, right? Isn't that supposed to be
My Cousin Vinny? That's a classic. Yeah, that is an absolute classic.
I've seen that
one. I haven't seen that in a while. I wonder how accurate that is. I don't want to ruin that movie for me. Let's assume it was amazing. So
Hey, so I have a question about what you guys thought about Arthur and his condition and the way it was like kind of presented. I thought they did keep mentioning how, he's crazy, he's lost his mind.
He's bipolar, manic depressive.
I mean, that's probably what his like clinical problem might be, but like the way he was boxed in the story, like in the movie, was kind of I didn't really like how they played with that. They could have gotten more out of him. I just saw a lot of missed potential with this movie. With Karen, with Arthur, there was a lot more they could have explored.
Yeah, agreed.
Arthur came off kind of like as a big baby at times. Like they were just like, who's gonna take care of Arthur? Who's gonna watch Arthur? Yeah. And like there was a lot of that going on. Arthur actually, for being so crazy, I mean, he has a few like real moments of clarity, right? Where he understands things for what they are in a way that Michael doesn't quite understand yet, and that's kind of the point, right? Michael has to kind of come to the realization,
kind of catch up.
Yeah, without speaking to Arthur or without getting the information from Arthur, because Arthur is by and large either isolated from him or like just they're trying to like rehabilitate him, and then he's gone at some point because for his apparent suicide. So there's all that, and like so Michael kind of has to realize the things that Arthur has already realized, not only about the case but also just about their role and their, I guess, their duties as people, and not so much focusing on their duties as an attorney, which kind of clouds their ability to do the right moral thing, in this case at least.
Right. And I don't think Arthur trusts Michael to make the right moral decision because he doesn't reveal like the memo, right, to him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of distrust, yet we know they're friends. So it raises some questions, interesting questions, right?
I actually, let's talk about that. So that's the opening monologue of this movie, right? And it's Arthur, leaving a message, or he's either, I don't know if it sounds like he's dictating a message. So it must be over the phone, but maybe he's writing a letter as well. But we're hearing the narration out loud, right? Of him kind of trying to tell Michael, like, wait, before you assume what just happened, like, please, like, let me tell you what's going on, right? And he's kind of imploring him that, like, you need to hear me out. So I kind of disagree with you on that I think it's the fact that Arthur doesn't really get the opportunity to do that very thing, and kind of level with Michael, and then he gets assassinated.
Yeah. Do we know when this message plays out in the movie? Because it is ambiguous, right?
Yeah, we don't really know when it comes. I'm assuming it is. Actually, we do kind of have an idea that it's before Michael shows up on the scene. So there's that whole deposition.
So in Milwaukee,
there's that deposition where Arthur basically strips naked and professes his love for the plaintiff, right? And as absurd as that is, that's a different point. I thought that was kind of probably going too far, but fine. Like, after that happens, right, Michael kind of gets the call that, like, okay, like, you're the guy, you need to go fix this, right? And I assume it happens in that interim because that's what Arthur leads us to believe. He says, who else could they possibly send? You must be the guy that's coming to get me.
Michael. Dear Michael. Of course it's you. Who else could they send? Who else could be trusted? And I know it's a long way and you're ready to go to work. All I'm saying is wait. Just wait. Just please hear me out, because this is not an episode. Relapse. Fuck up. I'm begging you, Michael. I'm begging you. Try and make believe this is not just madness, because this is not just madness. 2 weeks ago, I came out of the building, okay? I'm running across 6th Avenue. There's a car waiting. I got exactly 38 minutes to get to the airport, and I'm dictating. There's this panicked associate sprinting along beside me, scribbling in a notepad, and suddenly she starts screaming, and I realize we're standing in the middle of the street, the lights change, and there's this wall of traffic, serious traffic speeding towards us, and I freeze. I can't move. And I'm suddenly consumed with the overwhelming sensation that I'm covered with some sort of film. And it's in my hair, my face, and it's like a glaze, like a coating. And at first I thought, my God, I know what this is. This is some sort of amniotic embryonic fluid. I'm drenched in afterbirth. I've breached the chrysalis. I've been reborn. But then the traffic, the stampede, the cars, the trucks, the horns, boom, is screaming, and I'm thinking, no, reset. This is not rebirth. This is some kind of giddy illusion of renewal that happens in the final moment before death. And then I realized, no, this is completely wrong, because I look back at the building and I had the most stunning moment of clarity. I realized, Michael, that I had emerged, not through the doors of Kenner, Bach, and Lodine, not through the portals of our vast and powerful law firm, but from the asshole of an organism whose sole function is to excrete the poison, the ammo, the defoliant necessary for other, larger, more powerful organisms to destroy the miracle of humanity. And that I had been coded in this patina of shit for the best part of my life. The stench of it and the stain of it would in all likelihood take the rest of my life to undo. And you know what I did? I took a deep cleansing breath and I set that notion aside. I tabled it. I said to myself, as clear as this may be, as potent a feeling as this is, as true a thing as I believe that I have witnessed today, it must wait. It must stand the test of time. And Michael, the time is now.
So what I heard in that clip, right? I didn't hear Arthur convincing Michael that he's not crazy, which should have been his main goal, because Arthur's coming to bag him, right?
No, Michael's coming.
Michael's coming to bag Arthur, right? Arthur should have been trying to convince him that he's not having like this manic episode that he's thinking things straight. He doesn't do that.
I think he does. Well, he tries. The problem is he actually is kind of losing it to a degree. It's not that he does know what he feels, and that is a true feeling, but it's wrapped up in all the real insanity and the stress kind of coming down on him all in this moment. So it ends up becoming this rambling, incoherent thing, but he actually does open saying, wait, before you do anything, this is not just another episode. Like, you need to understand that. You know, he tries, he really tries to do that, but then
right,
it's as
because
soon as
Michael
right, and it's as soon as he gets past that he goes into his rambling again. But there is truth in buried in there, right? When he gets to the end of that whole rambling story, at the end of it he says that he has come out of the organism that excretes a poison that allows other bigger organisms to continue to destroy the miracle of humanity, right? So that is kind of a really, really
it's a nice little metaphor,
thought.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, he says, as a law firm, we are just enabling everyone else. We're enablers. We're enablers for these corporations. And so I really did like that. Like, all wrapped up in his insanity, there is a real clarity. He's not wrong about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. But as far as like achieving that goal, which must have been to convince Arthur
right.
or to convince Michael not to bag him, not to bring him in, I guess.
He's not doing it, right?
It's
not going to work.
Yeah, because he's had another episode that's revealed later, right? In which Michael brings him,
rehabilitates him.
Yeah.
So with the whole, like you mentioned this with his love for the plaintiff, on top of how they keep referring to him going crazy, it's just very dismissive of Arthur in the movie. Obviously, us as the audience, like, no, he's onto something. He's not just crazy or just... I mean, he is. He has some issue, but like the actual meat of his issue is true.
Yeah.
In the movie, it's just very easily dismissed, with him falling in love with the plaintiff.
It is because the head of the legal firm also says it, like, we've known from day one that this case was a shitty case, right? That we knew North knew about the harmful consequences of their chemicals. The law firm doesn't pretend to be playing for the right side.
Yeah, he says something to Michael like, don't act like don't tell me I need to explain to you right now how our firm pays the bills, right? Like he's like, dude, this is what we do, and you know it. Like, and so again, I don't know, for some reason Michael is disconnected from that, and Arthur, I think, knew that as truth for a very long time, but the circumstances that things end in, especially with him falling in love with this plaintiff, it really throws him for a loop. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it's interesting because I think he's right in the end about how he feels, but he only feels it because he happens to be in love with the plaintiff, maybe, right? And that's not the purest way to come to a realization that, you have a moral duty, right? Just because you end up in love with a woman, that's why. Oh, now suddenly I understand that people deserve rights, and we should look out for one another. Like that's a little bit reductive.
Let me get into that a little bit. To me, that whole thing with the plaintiff and Arthur was seeing her not as like a love interest or anything even human. It was more like symbolic, like she's a token of like truth.
He says she's a miracle, right? He says that multiple times to Michael,
because she's like super innocent, and like it's like it's hitting him like this is the kind of person that is affected by you, North.
Right.
Like this is the kind of person worth protecting or whatever.
I mean, that's I guess I just don't like how it's presented in the movie. It just seems dismissive.
I mean, you're right. I think it is dismissive. Because whatever, like there's a lot of glossing over what's going on with Arthur. So I think you're right there. But I just think if you peel back enough layers, like there actually is like a pretty articulate description of really the central theme of what they're trying to show us is, right? So I thought it's there, but it's as we discussed, it's there to the searching eye maybe, but people aren't gonna walk out of the movie and say like, wow, we need to reconsider our moral duties as a society, right? Like nobody got that out of this movie necessarily. So I agree with you there. It's probably a little bit deeper hidden in the this entire plot.
What, like the shared culpability of everyone, like the enablers in society?
Yeah, like I mean, again, like they throw that in there, but really they're throwing it in there from the most insane character in this movie, right? And nobody really nobody thinks he actually knows what he's talking about. So It's a
because he's known to have like these manic episodes, right?
we don't get a lot of detail on that, but obviously he had at least one before, right? And Michael was the guy
Right.
that was there to kind of pull him through it. And so, do we get more detail than that? I don't really know that we do,
About his previous cases? No, we don't. We don't get like the history.
or even like what the condition is.
Bipolar? I don't know.
Yeah, they don't actually mention what the actual condition is. Yeah, just that he gets episodes if he gets off his medication. I was gonna ask, like, do you know if Michael Clayton is based on anything or if it's a original movie?
It's original screenplay by
Oh, it
the
is?
director.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume. I mean, like, North is. I mean, is they're playing off like Monsanto?
Not Monsanto. It's the other company.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, it's Monsanto is like the
They're like the seed company.
Yeah, I'm thinking the fertilizer company.
I don't know.
So, I mean, we talked about this at the top, right? But like George Clooney's character, and I mean, he does a good job of portraying this, but Michael Clayton is not happy with who he is. He has, a whole slew of problems, but there's that scene, again, with the hit and run guy. I guess he's a client of the firm, and Michael gets sent out late at night to deal with his issue, and this guy hit somebody in the road and kept driving home. Michael Clayton doesn't have much good news for him. He pretty much says, okay, we're going to need to get a criminal trial attorney over here as soon as possible. And, there's no play here, right? And the guy kind of loses it, and he was like, I was told that you could do better. Is that all you have for me? And he says, like, I don't know. I don't know what you were told, but I don't know who you thought was coming here. And he says, I thought, I was told, direct quote, a miracle worker was on his way to my house, right? And Clayton's response to that is, I'm not a miracle worker, I'm a janitor, right? That's two very different ways to look at the same thing, right? Somebody at a law firm like this who cleans up everyone's messes, right? Literally a janitor, but to a lot of other people, he's the guy who kind of comes and saves the day a lot of the time. And so that's kind of a very romanticized way to look at the role of a fixer and the role of Michael Clayton. But internally, he doesn't feel like he has any sort of identity himself, and he's this tool on the Swiss Army knife that everyone uses. Yeah. But really, he does all the dirty work is how he feels, right? I thought that was really interesting because it is kind of something that we do tend to romanticize a bit. Maybe not just like a fixer, but like I'm thinking of like people who generally are like, you hear the term the closer kind of thrown out a lot, right? And so that's obviously it's a baseball term when it has to do with somebody who closes out games, but that's also, that is a role that people have at like at law firms, right? The closer is the most reliable guy you can have to come in and get the deal done. But like something about the way that he's put in that bucket, just it's unfulfilling for him. And I guess they go into deeper details about why he feels so unfulfilled, like the fact that he's not a partner, even though he has more seniority than almost everyone else. But because of his role, he kind of has to stay off the books essentially, and all of that. But like really at his core, what we're talking about is there's a huge disconnect in terms of the value he places on himself versus the external value that everyone gets from him. But like we said, that's really only because he has utility to them.
I mean, like, he even asks, who is it, Marty? Like put me on a team, one that goes to court and actually tries cases and stuff.
And he won't do it, right? He says like you should be proud. You've carved out a niche for yourself. That's what he says,
exactly. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Michael, his only impetus for being on like a team again was because of the rumors of merging, and the after the merger they wouldn't see his value, right?
He's like paranoid that like he might not have the same role because he's kind of like like Yusuf said, he's off the books.
And that was the motivation for him trying to get a restaurant going. That was his way out.
He wanted a way out, right? Yeah, and he's under a pile of debt essentially. For somebody who's as important to the firm as he is, he doesn't seem to have any sort of security, right? So he doesn't have a real place at the table at the firm, and he doesn't even have money saved up, right? Perhaps he did. He clearly was trying to save up money, but family issues of some sort, right? Somebody screws him over, his brother, right? I guess we don't really.
Yeah, no, it's his brother because his brother is an alcoholic.
We don't really get the detail. Again, I feel like they go halfway on a lot of stuff. We don't get a lot of details about what happened there, but obviously his brother screwed up and cost them money, right?
So that's another theme that we didn't really discuss, but it's there, I guess, addiction, because his brother he's an alcoholic, and then we know that Michael is like recovering from a gambling addiction. So whenever something goes wrong, the first thing people assume of him is like, oh, are you like back at
in
the
gambling
table?
debt or something?
Are you playing cards again?
Yeah, they're all a bit screw ups, right?
Yeah.
So Yusuf, I don't think you explored the why, right? Why doesn't Michael value his skills? Is it just a difference in values, I guess? Like he doesn't think there's a reason for his existence in society?
I think nobody sees the ugliness that he does. Going back to that hit and run scene, that it's really like, it was cringy almost. I mean, it's a good performance, but when you hear this guy talk about, the guy that he just hit, basically shouting about why was that guy running in the middle of the night, but like he's speaking so matter-of-factly that he's like, you see, what they did was they changed the grade out there, and they widened the lanes, and that combined with the fogginess and the sodium lamps that they just put up there, it's blinding. I've been complaining about this for years, and like he's saying it like you see what happened, like, there was these 700 things just came into the perfect alignment that caused this coincidence where I hit this guy with my car, and he has no culpability for it, right?
Yeah, he's searching for an out where Michael's like, it's a clear-cut case of hit and run, right? All those extenuating circumstances go out the window once you've left the scene.
Not only is he searching for one, he thinks he deserves one. And I think that's what Michael hates, that like, I'm the guy who has to smooth this out and save this guy's butt, and this guy doesn't deserve it at all.
Because this guy doesn't see that he did anything wrong, right?
Right, and he doesn't see that he did anything wrong, and I'm going to help him get off so that he can continue being a horrible person, right? And to use Arthur's words, right, we're spewing out the poison that allows bigger, worse organisms to destroy the miracle of humanity, right? So like I think he gets that moment where he just realizes exactly what Arthur was already feeling. And I don't know that we ever find out that like Michael Clayton actually heard Arthur's message or anything, right? But the point is that he ends up in the exact same spot, and that's, I think, really what makes him lose the value, because he knows the kind of scum that he keeps safe, and that doesn't sit nice with him anymore, and that's why he calls himself a janitor.
And you think it doesn't sit nice with him because Arthur has died at this point?
Maybe, right? I mean, you have to see that like Arthur, he knows that Arthur had, an extreme discontent for what he did by the end of it, right? So, I mean, it probably does cause some internal questioning on his end as well. But I feel like he was already there because he was looking for a way out with the restaurant. He was, he had several failures as he tries to, remake himself, and never really works out. And he just kind of stays in his rut until things play out the way he did. And he, he calls up his cop buddy and, puts a wire on and and screws over the company in one last act of defiance, I guess, right? He must lose his job after that, I would assume, right?
I would assume so, yeah. I don't know how he survives that at the company.
I think that last sequence, cinematography wise, there's one thing that stuck out to me. Was I did like how long that last scene was, where he says, he said, I just need some air, and he goes outside, he gets in the taxi, and he gives him $50 or something. He says, just drive, just drive in circles, and we watch him just sitting there in the car thinking for like probably a good 2 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. I really did like that, where it was just, I don't know that there's anything really even going through his mind, but it's kind of there's a weight being lifted off him, and he just gets a moment of peace, kind of, in New York traffic. So I did like that.
I mean, considering that his friend Arthur has been killed, he probably feels relief that he's gotten some, I guess, justice for Arthur.
Yeah,
and he's letting it soak in.
Yeah.
As far as the cinematography goes, I generally liked it. It's just the music I didn't like. But this guy also did Nightcrawler. I looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
See, that kind of music worked with Nightcrawler. Like, kind of like intense music.
Yeah, because Nightcrawler's central character was so psychopathic that it kind of fit, right?
And he did do a Bourne movie, but he did the one with, not with Matt
Ultimatum.
Damon. Yeah. No, he didn't do Ultimatum. The other one.
It's Jeremy Renner, right? Yeah. So it's outside of kind of the canon of the Matt Damon films, I guess. But
I haven't seen this one.
That's interesting because I mean, I guess you're right. Like that type of music and that kind of the intensity or like kind of the tone that brings probably works a lot better for those movies. Obviously, for Nightcrawler, it makes sense. For corporate espionage in this movie, probably not, right? I mean, it's not that tense where you need that throughout this entire sequence, I guess. So that's probably I don't know. It seemed a little bit
I'm guessing that falls on the editing or what's it called, the music department. Does the director get a say in that?
Yeah, I think the director gets to tell him, like, provide the direction for the use of it. The actual creation of it, I guess, maybe he doesn't have as much of a say. But, I mean, it still falls under our aesthetic score.
Get this. This was his first directorial movie.
Oh, okay. Another thing, how we talked about George Clooney and the character he plays, a movie that I think just kind of blended in as one movie was Up in the Air and Michael Clayton. They came out somewhat close to each other.
Right?
Yeah, 2009 and 2007. He's not like so much of a fixer in Up in the Air, but like he has that same kind of character vibe to himself. I don't know. I guess I saw both of those movies when they kind of first got released. So if you asked me about it like 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I probably would have mixed them both, like between which one was which. I wouldn't have remembered.
I don't know that I've seen Up in the Air, but isn't that like a rom-com about like, I don't know, that takes place mostly on like flights or
he's
something?
basically a dude who travels a lot for work and fires people. Like that's what his role is as a consultant, and he has affairs with women while traveling.
That's like that's two really weird movies to blend together. I see why, but like that's hilarious.
The same
I think it's a character.
Yeah,
right?
it's a character. The way he's acting,
he plays
is
like this
exactly
cool,
the same.
detached guy. You can like superimpose anything onto him.
And he dresses exactly the same.
That's a George Clooney special.
It is? All right.
He does that so much. I mean, you know, just kind of playing the cool, suave guy who like has a little bit too much going on. Even like the Ocean's movies.
Yeah.
Come on, like that's like what he does. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's his bread and butter. That's true.
Right. I think he's a much better actor than just that, but he does do a lot of that, and at least historically he did. Maybe not even so much so recently, but like I feel like in the 2000s when this movie came out, he did a lot of those roles.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay, I'm reading about George Clooney right now. His maternal great-great-great-great-grandmother, Mary Ann Sparrow, was the half-sister of Nancy Lincoln, mother of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
What?
George Clooney, bro, got some president in him.
George Clooney, the
Wow.
emancipator of slaves,
Okay.
the breaker of chains,
Let's not go that far. I mean, he did take down you North.
the breaker of chains.
Oh, we didn't talk about Realm and Conquest. Realm and Conquest, guys, the fantasy novel that his son is reading, that is very important here. It's what gives Arthur the clarity that he needs to do what he needs to do.
I wouldn't say it gives him the clarity.
It doesn't give Arthur any clarity. It gives. Oh wait, yeah, you're right. It's Arthur because Arthur's off his meds. Yeah, Arthur sees all like the symbolic nature of like everyone coming to a clearing with some epiphany, right?
It like
That's
motivates him to go
Realm and
further.
Conquest.
Like he already knows, I think, like what the truth is, but then like the book when he's talking with Michael's son, yeah, it just gives him the motivation to proceed. Because it's in the hotel, right? And he leaves. If he doesn't have that conversation, you think he's just there in the morning with Michael and they go back to the law firm together. Or if he doesn't have that, or if he does have that conversation, so he clearly decides, all right, I'm booking it and I'm going to do what I need to do.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really do think that's what we're led to believe, right? That's why they put Henry in there and, they have him. It was kind of sad. The whole movie, he's just like, yeah, there's this book, Dad, you got to read it. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to read it. And then like his dad's friend who happens to call is like, 100 times more interested in this book. He's like, you gotta give me, like, he forgets to ask him the name of the book and they almost hang up and he's like, wait, like, what's the name of the book? Like, I'm gonna lose my mind if I don't know what the name of this book is right now. Like, I need to go. So I don't know, I thought it was fun. I liked that aspect of it.
Yeah, so from the moment he gets the name of the book, and then we see he has that book up in his loft in New York. So he eventually does get that book, right?
Yeah, and he hides the receipt for the copies
print
of the
shop
memo.
or
Yeah, and and also the memos that he prints are themed after the color theme of the book Realm and Conquest as well. So it really did stick.
What? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, because like the red and black theme, he uses that on the cover. Because they I don't know if you noticed, but like when Michael Clayton now goes into the print shop to pick them up, he was like, hey man, like, sorry, like, we didn't have enough red covers like you asked for. Yeah. So like Arthur clearly specifically asked for every one of those memos to have like a red cover with the black writing
to follow the theme.
Yeah.
And now they're blue, I think, right?
I think he said like we have to do the last 100 in blue or something. But the point is, like, Arthur specifically requested it was the takeaway from that. So the book really did imprint on his plan. That was the turning point for him, I think.
Alrighty, guys. Thanks everyone for listening.
Go do your moral duty, everyone. Bye.
Stop supporting corporations.
Thanks for listening to this production of The Twice Over. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and sharing it with a friend. Want to see what your tally is? Check out thetwiceover.com. All the movies we've done are listed there, as well as what we're watching for the current week. Follow us at The Twice Over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where you can leave us any suggestions, feedback, or comments. And if you're about it, you can also support us on Patreon. The music you hear on this podcast is from Amerigo Gazaway. You can find his work on Bandcamp and Spotify.